Welcome to The Profile. I'm Gary Dunn, and in the hot seat tonight is a guy I met when I was 15. I left the David Jones ladies' shoe department and got a job in Musgroves. And I bumped into this guy, Mr. Terry Atterton. How are you, Terry?
Gary, lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
Really nice to have you, and I know you got lots of stories to tell us. So I'll start with, where were you born, Terry?
King Edward Memorial Hospital, sabbatical, Gary. Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And what school did you attend?
Christchurch Grammar School later in life, but like Dick, I was at Dalkeith Primary. We spent our life running around the oval there. And regardless of what Dick says about my ability, his ability as a little midfielder was spectacular.
Oh, right, because you were the left footer, he was the dynamic midfielder.
He did the running.
Yes.
I did the kicking, he did the running. He was good.
So what instruments do you play? I know you're a singer, Terry. But
well, yeah, mainly vocals. I mean, I've learnt guitar in the last 20 years because I sort of needed to, and for myself, and I play drums as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think, as we were saying earlier, is I never had a need early to play guitar.
Yeah.
When you play with guys like Dave Hole and John Meyer and Dennis James, and even like Pete Reeve now, you feel very, very inadequate. Trying to do too much alongside them, so I never did. So I was let off the hook a bit.
I remember looking up at you, your long hair, and like wisping away, and all the girls were like.
It was great days. They were great days, Gary.
So, what was the turning point in your life, Terry, that brought you to sing and to music?
Probably, like a lot of guys my age, the '60s came about, and then we started hearing the Everly Brothers and the Shadows, and all these things started coming on the air, and there's been nothing like we'd heard before, and that was just an immediate catch. I don't know of anyone my age who didn't suddenly go, hang on, what's going on here? And I think it was probably Hank Marvin was the first guy, Apache, or one of those, the very first songs the Shadows used to do, that I just said, my God, turned my life around. It just it changed all my. I didn't really thought that much about music. I'd enjoyed it, but never really. The family wasn't musical, so it was just listening to the radio. But once that started coming on the radio, then I never had it off. Yeah.
Exciting times.
Oh yeah, they were. They were incredible times. Yeah.
So the first band you played in was Undecided.
Yes.
School band? School
band, yeah. Drummer was a friend of mine from school, from Christchurch Grammar School, and we found a guitar player in the seedy parts of East Perth that came out of a hole and got on stage with us, and he was something. He built his own guitars. That was way back. It was a pretty rare thing. And
what was his name?
I can't remember. Ben someone or other, but he was. They had a stage at a place we used to play called Doreena's Discotheque, and it had a high stage that was probably I suppose about 10 feet off the ground, and next door you was the kitchen, and so you look down at the kitchen. Ben actually put his guitar one night on his stand, and it all fell into the kitchen. Guitar hit the ceramic basin, shattered the basin in every direction. Wow. Got his guitar, blew it down, perfect. Played on the rest of the night. I don't think we would have known whether it was out of tune anyway.
So that was 1964-ish. Yeah, I've got here.
Yeah, that would have been ish.
Yes, and you played with Ron Parker. In a band, Synthetic Union. Phil
Pruitti.
Pruitti.
Yeah, Phil was a magic guitar player. He was sort of like, and went on to become like the Jeff Beck of Perth. He was a very inventive player, very different to a lot of other guys. Came to fame in Fatty Lumpkin, of course, when he played there with John Meyer and with other guys as well. So, but Phil and Ron Parker, the king of the shuffle. Yes. Ron was just the best drummer, and he had the greatest voice too. In those days he sang, whereas when he played with Dave and different people, he's never had to sing.
So as a singer, does that threaten you when a drummer can sing really good?
Not only when he does harmonies really spot on, it's great.
So then I've got Current Bun.
Current Bun. Big
God,
band.
This writing
big band,
is terrible,
Gary. This was. We used to do all the big stomps around town at the. And that was once the same sort of guys used to crop up, as we were all good friends. So in that band we had two guitar players, which was pretty unheard of, having two really good lead players in that day. So we had Phil Pruitti and Dennis James. We had the two of them. We had Al Cash playing drums. Yeah. So Colin Atkins on bass, who I still play with now. Wow. And so it was really a really good band, and we used to play a lot of gigs with Steve Tallis's band and different people like that. And that was special times.
It's funny because in those days everyone just shuffled around and left a band, then came back to it. And
absolutely, there was never a great falling out. We all sort of just drifted into something else. It was it was a very comfortable way of doing it. There was no animosity, there was no anger. It was all just I'm doing something else. And
And there was so much going on and so much work.
There was work everywhere. You had the wine bars, you had the discotheques. We sort of played more the underground market. There was the big top hats and some of the big nightclubs that were around in those days, but they sort of weren't really our market. We were doing more of the yeah, that was a good throw, Phil.
Al's trying to throw a pin to Phil. What do you need a pin for, Sean? Huh? My God. There you go.
Underarm, that's better.
Sorry about this, Terry.
That's all
Very
right,
unprofessional show we have here sometimes.
Nah.
You did enjoy the massage earlier.
It was fantastic, mate.
And
Yeah, the treatment, the hairdresser, it was all good.
So Dave Holband as well, and
well, that was a great period of time with playing with Dave. I really enjoyed that. We started out doing a lot of original material, which in those days was great, but probably from a songwriting point of view, there was already a little bit of a clash going on. I was sort of like writing heavy metal songs, and Dave was singing blues songs and doing blues songs, and so we somehow moulded it together, but no one booked us. So we actually changed the name of the band from Dave Holband to Dried Fruit, and learned a whole lot of Kinks and Rolling Stones songs, and started getting work everywhere. Wow. So it was quite weird.
So did at that time, did you feel you needed a day job, because you obviously started working for Phonogram in '75?
I probably did. I mean, I enjoyed playing, but like all things, they come to an end at some stage, and I sort of had a bit of pressure, not pressure, but I'd been married. I got married in '72, and so I sort of started getting these sort of settling down sort of ideas, and so I still had the music going, but it wasn't as upfront as it had been. And that's when I started working for Phonogram Records, which became Universal Music later down the line.
So something just hit me then. I can remember as a 15-year-old as well. Did you live in Scarborough, on Scarborough Beach Road? You had a flat or something?
No, I didn't, but Steve Britton
did have. Steve Britton.
Yeah, Steve Britton was a guitar player who at that stage I was playing with.
Yes.
And Steve was also a rep for Phonogram at the same time. I got him a job as a rep there.
I remember coming around and there was a girl. And we won't talk about the girls.
Yeah, okay, we'll just leave that one alone.
Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Look, so that just hit me then in '75.
Steve Britton,
And I think that's where I learned some of my bad habits.
Well, Clive Hodgson also came on after I left Phonogram Records. Clive Hodgson took my job there, so that's where Clive started into the music industry as well.
A blast from the past.
Yeah.
So you looked after PR for 10cc at Demise Resource, Nana Muscuri.
Mate, I spent all my life at airports saying hello, greeting people, watching them jump into a cab and drive away, and then going to the hotels and making sure they were happy with it, as you do when you're doing PR. That's part of the job, along with radio station work and all those sorts of things, going to try and flog records and make sure they got played. A lot of graft, a lot of underhanding. Here's a box of Eagles albums if you'll play the new album.
So what was it like mixing with those stars? And it must have been.
It was a days of decadence, Gary, as far as the record companies were concerned. They were full
cleaning up.
They were cleaning up monetary wise. As you know, the records were always expensive in those days. Yeah. It wasn't until we started getting imports from other areas that we suddenly realised how cheap they could be. But those days it was a license to print money, and the artists were doing the same. They were doing so well out of it, and they all toured through. So the entertainment centre was up and running, and we had some pretty wonderful times during those days, with boat trips to Rottnest and with stars and all.
Can you tell us any of those stories?
Well, actually, one of the funniest ones I was involved with. I mean, we hired a big launch, and we hired the captain of the launch was a member of the water police, or he had been a member of the water police. So he's a very straight guy. He was very strict about the rules and regulations of the water and how you must do, what you must act. And we were heading out through Fremantle Harbour. This is with cold chisel. We had all the boys on board, and they demanded their crew all go as well, because that's the way things worked in Chisel in those days. So we had about 20 guys on board and a few assorted girls and food and all sorts of stuff, and we're steaming out of the harbour. And there was this Navy frigate coming into the harbour at the same time, this Dutch Navy frigate, and we were about to pass it. And so the guy steering the boat took us over fairly close, and then right along the whole side of the boat, every guy from Chisel and from the entourage mooned them as they went past them. And there was just this row of bums, and everyone was on the boat was just falling apart laughing. They had these guys all lined up as they went into harbour, and they just couldn't hold it together. They were all just falling apart totally. It was hilarious. It really was funny.
So you moved to Warner Records?
And
like Rod Stewart, Chisel, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
any other stories you can share with us from there that you can tell on camera?
Well, I was telling Simo a fairly, well, I won't get in trouble. I don't want to get into trouble because what I know. But we were, when Fleetwood Mac came to town, they came via Japan, was their last port of call. And Paul McCartney had been in Japan just before them and got busted, if you remember rightly.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
With
Fleetwood
Wings.
Mac were the next band into Japan after that, and they went in dry as. No one touched anything illegal in any way. And so the next port of call was Perth. And so I got the phone call from this guy who was head of marketing and promotions and whatever in Sydney for Warner Music. I can say his name, Peter Riker. He's since passed, unfortunately. And Peter said, Terry, he said, they're dry. He said, I want you to get anything you can for this band from anywhere. And we never had this phone conversation. If anything happens, I don't know anything about it. I said, thank you very much, Peter. So I better call all the reps in and said, boys, go out, use up all your contacts you can. And they did, and they were unbelievably good. They obviously had a lot of contacts I didn't know about. But they brought it all back, and we had a little Gladstone bag. And we headed up the Palm Elia Hotel, myself and one of the reps. And we went past all the security people. We were ushered through. We knocked on the door, and the door opened, and it was Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood were at the door. And I had this bag, and as he opened, they only opened the door partially. I said, from Warner Music, I've got something you're waiting for. And they just grabbed it, the door slammed shut, and that was it. We sort of marched back out through the security, headed back downstairs again. So yeah, that was pretty interesting.
They did the concert all right?
Oh, great. They played really well.
Can you tell me a Linda Ronstadt story?
Oh, I'd like to tell you a better one, but unfortunately, it finished with her shutting the door again and me disappearing down the same hallway again. I had to take, in those days, I had to take a cassette player up to her, but she had no music in the room apparently.
Yep.
So I thought, well, we'll get a cassette player and take it up there for her, and a range of tapes. And we did that, and she opened the door and she was just standing there in a towel, and she was just unbelievably attractive woman. She was incredible. She just thanked us so profusely, but took the machine and shut the door again. So yeah,
it didn't get to go in.
That was it, mate. There was no story after that. No.
So
fond memories.
very, very fond. And obviously, you were still playing throughout the record company days with Perth bands.
Yes, yeah.
You ended up estate manager for Warner Music, obviously.
Yeah, I did. That was that was hard. You know, like I probably did that for about 5 or 6 years, but it became numbers. You know, as record companies at that end of the scale become. It's all about budget projections and everything else other than music.
Yeah.
You know, music is the domain of the promotions area and other people, you know.
Yeah.
And so I did it for about 5 years, but I got jack of it after that and decided to give it away. So that was the end of that.
So you kept playing. Was there any bands that you can name then, or who you
probably
played with?
nothing of much notoriety, Gary. I mean, they were all good bands, but once again, I was still fortunate enough to play with a lot of good guys. That's when I started, you know, learning a bit of guitar and suddenly writing a few songs and becoming a bit more interested in what I was doing musically, which was great. Yeah. But I think probably my work became nearly number one at those days, and the band was very much secondary, and it had to be because the work was sort of fairly important. So yeah.
You went into management at the Generator Hotel.
Yeah, that was with Greg Green. That was with Greenzo. Yeah. That was as Dick was talking about Pinky. Pinky was on that side of the office, and Greg and I were on the other side of the office, and that was really something. Yeah, we had a great time. I mean, Greg was looking after Perfect Strangers, Frames. I think O for Zero might have been on the list as well from memory. And Wayne Green and the Phantoms, and Wayne's been a mate of mine for a million years, and he was just one of the best rocking guys you'd ever find, and that was great. So it was a nice mixture of people to be looking after. Yeah. We probably didn't do as much for Wayne as we could have done because we were so busy doing the Perfect Strangers, and Frames was so big, and the Generator pub, mate, that was just a license to print money. That was incredible. 2,000 people there, and
it was
Andy
massive.
Doing cartwheels across the stage of the Perfect Strangers, and then you'd go home with bags of money and tuck them into the potbelly stove and bank them on Monday, and it was pretty scary stuff. Big numbers though.
Bags of money.
That was
I remember
incredible.
playing there and just the way it got redone and decked out.
Yeah, it was a fabulous venue. It was a really good venue, and all big stages too in those days.
Didn't go for long, but did it?
No, it didn't go for long.
Bigness.
I think there was too many other venues. They seemed to sort of take over one from the other. One would become popular, then it'd fade away. Then the next one, the Overflow or someone else, White Sands, something would come along and take its place.
Yeah. So you worked at Bruce Ingrams and Associates, distributed local talent up north. Can you tell us about all of that?
Yeah, that was sort of fairly interesting actually, because Bruce Ingrams were a like a music distributor for all the major record companies. So we had a warehouse, actually a funny story there, we had a warehouse full of music, and we used to supply to everybody and anybody that the record companies didn't supply to.
Okay.
So there would be pharmacies, could be roadhouses, it could be anything. And so we had a massive range of music in there, and we used to do a lot of distribution for local artists. We did Dave's first album, Short Fuse Blues, when it first came out. We were the first distributors for that. Albie Poole's stuff. There was a lot of stuff. Pete Busher. There's a lot of different bands we looked after as far as distribution went. But the classic was when Sony Music rang us one day and they said, "Look, guys, we've got AC/DC in town at the moment." They were signed to CBS in those days. And they said, "We can't take them to a record shop because it'd be pandemonium. Can we bring them over to your warehouse?" So they just want to buy some music. And we thought, yeah, I suppose so. And I think the person who spoke to the manager of CBS said, as long as they don't interfere with people doing their job. So we're sure that's going to happen. So anyway, so they brought them over, and we had Angus and Malcolm Young and the boys all wandering around. And we just had some great conversations with them, which was really, really interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting insight into AC/DC on the road, and dietitians and physiotherapists and no booze and all the things that people don't expect.
Yeah, and look, Angus came up to Gobbles when I was the night after up there. And out the back, cups of tea, chain smoking.
Yeah, chain smoking.
And cups of tea,
absolutely.
no alcohol at all.
Yeah, never touched it. Yeah,
it surprised me.
Well, everyone, the image is hard living, hard drinking, but it's not. Then, and as I remember, I think it was Angus or Malcolm said to us, they said, we don't do meet and greets, we can't do those things because if we get crook, we've got another 300 dates of gigs ahead of us. We can't afford to have a cold and suddenly can't play.
They actually worked their nuts off.
They did. They were working really hard.
And they're still, I mean, Axl Rose is now, and they're writing a new album and still going.
And it's continuing on. It's great, isn't it great?
Never stops.
Never stops. No, and it's good that it doesn't. Because they'll have a lot to offer even with that lineup.
I'm sure the album will be fantastic.
It'll be good.
We'll all buy it. And,
we'll be there.
There'll be some great new songs. And so 2000 to 2010, Purple Ear Records in Dianella.
Record shop.
What happened?
Simo was apparently a regular buyer there. It was going really well. We had a really good clientele. We sold a lot of music, and we did a lot of importing. So that was the main thrust. It was a bit like what 78s was when they first started. We used to continue that on with a really good service, fast turnaround, but importing stuff from all around the world. And but like everything in the music industry, all of a sudden, boo, down she went. The big stop came, and we used to go to record company conferences, and they'd have the pie up, and they'd show you what slice of that is downloading. And that might be the legit downloading, but the illegal downloading was the other half of the pie, in which they never talked about, and the whole thing just collapsed real fast. It went down the Google.
It's never recovered.
No, that disappeared, and that was the end of it. So
well, you got now is iTunes and Spotify, and
that's it.
Pay your thing and
pay your fee, and away you go. Which is not the same. I don't believe it. I still like.
It doesn't sound as good.
No, no, it doesn't. No.
Unfortunately, so. Now, in 2010, someone opened your eyes to a new type of music. My producer.
Sitting over there.
He gave you an album, a country album.
Couldn't believe it. I can't remember what it was. I think
because you hated country music, didn't you?
Oh, wouldn't even. Blues, rock, that was it. I wasn't really interested in country. I never hated it. I didn't like it. And I didn't really know much about it. So I was pretty ignorant about it. I thought it was Slim Dusty and Charlie Pride, and that was about all I'd heard. And Simo gave me a CD. He said, "Addo," he said, "you should give this stuff a bit of a listen. You should. You never know. You might just get to like it." And it was things like Brooks and Dunn and Alan Jackson, Dwight Yoakam, and a whole lot of different people on there. And I sort of played it in the car a few times and listened to it a fair bit, and lo and behold, it just started getting into my head, and I just couldn't stop it. And from then on, that was it. He stuck it to me, and I just started forming country band. Got a country band with a couple of the guys who I'd played with back in the late '60s and early '70s.
Who are they?
Colin Atkins, bass player, and Jeff Lally, drummer, who I'd played with in '72 in a band called Joker. And so all good players, and Pete Reeve, who now plays with Paul McCarthy. In a duo, so Pete's in the band as well.
Good guitar player.
Hot guitar player, very, very good player. And we're just loving the country thing. I dragged Pete into it a bit. He was a bit of a Stevie Ray Vaughan man as a guitar player, and that style. And when he first started playing some of this stuff, he wasn't really too keen on it at all. And it took him a while. I think he left the band a couple of times in between and came back again. And then he's learnt so much from playing country. He admits freely now that it's made him such a better guitar player because what he said, I had to relearn playing, basically, to play country the way people play country. And that was just, it's another string to his bow. He's pretty happy that he's learned it all now. And now he's doing the band thing with us and playing with Paul McCarthy, doing the duo. They're playing the Gaslight Club and some of those places, and they're really good. Because Paul's, as Dick said, he's a great songwriter.
Yeah.
Great songwriter.
He used to live across the road from me when I was living with my parents in Mirrabooka. And
Paul did?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So that's when I first met him, and he used to be sitting in his bedroom. He wrote the boys' songs and all that sort of stuff. And
I remember seeing the boys at the Dianella Hotel, and we tried to sign them to Warner's. We sent tapes over and did all sorts of things, but Festival got them instead. It was
good band.
They were hot. Yeah, they really were.
So country music.
Yeah. So
and it's still with you.
And it's still going, and we're gigging next week and the week after, and we've got sort of gigs floating around the place, and it's still fun. I love live playing. Yeah. I've never been a great one for recording, but I just love playing live.
Yeah. It's a good feeling, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's hard to beat, I think. Yeah. And that's great because we can still fulfil that and keep doing it. And you can do it as long as you want to, really.
Do you think you were maybe bigger than Magnificent Seven, or
big shoes to fill there, mate? I mean, the Simo promotional tool just runs that thing like a machine. It's just I wouldn't go near it too hard. Do a support gig for them.
Yeah, great gig at the Charles that was in February there. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and there's another one coming up, I think, with Al, isn't there? Sometime 24th or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move sideways a bit, Terry. So what was the first concert you went to? What?
First concert, I can remember it well. It was the Kinks. Kinks at the Capitol Theatre. Yeah.
Wow. What year would that have been?
It would have been about mid-60s, I suppose. About 64, 65, around about then sometime. Yeah.
And
absolute blown away. They were just, and all the day and all the night, you really got, they were all there. They all came out. And I was just shocked. I was just stunned, sitting there in your duffel coat watching these guys,
So, you're really influenced by a musician or band? What would that have been?
Vocally wise, like the guys I put on pedestals, people like Paul Rodgers. Always been a massive fan. Jack Bruce as a vocalist, not just as a bass player, but as a vocalist as well. And Steve Winwood. They're probably my three favourites for different reasons. That I really do love their voices.
Excellent.
And they're inspirational. Those guys. Yeah.
So your favourite band of all time?
Oh, undoubtedly Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Yeah.
Without any doubt.
Yeah. Great.
Changed my life, changed my way of thinking about music.
Yeah.
For many, many, many years, and still has. Yeah.
Best Perth band you saw live?
That's a good one. The Boys were hot. I think from an impression, I remember going to the Dianella Hotel and people talking about this band, and we went down just to have a look, and they just blew me away. They were just, the energy of that band was just remarkable. And for young guys, they were pumping. I mean, there's a lot of good musical bands I've seen that I really love, but that was something else. That was really, really, really good. Yeah.
It's funny because I went to school with Brent, and then a couple of years later, I went to the Dianella Hotel and went, oh, that's Brent.
Is that right? Yeah, you hadn't seen him since then.
No,
wow.
It's awesome.
Yeah, they were very good. And of course, Greenie joined them for a short time as well.
Yeah. And they were fantastic too.
That was still a great band.
Fantastic.
Different style, but it was great.
So, favourite album you would take to a deserted island? If you were stranded on a deserted island, what album would you take? What album would you want to listen to?
It'd have to be a Jimmy album. And it'd probably be Are Your Experience, because that was the one that gave the greatest impression to me. It was just, that was the first one, and it just changed everything. It changed everything. I've been listening to Clapton and all these other people up until then, but I've always had a bit of thing about guitar players. That's probably why I played with all these guys, because I listened more to the guitar player than I did to the vocals at a lot of the things that we used to do. And
that's strange because you were a vocalist. So.
Absolutely, For some reason, I just tacked onto the guitar player as being the focal point of the song. and Hendrix was.
I wondered, you know, Purple Haze, what are they talking about? And then I think I met you and Steve Britton, and anyway.
That's another story.
So your favourite TV show growing up?
Same as Dick.
Yeah.
F Troop. And named a band. We had a band called G Troop with Steve Tallis was in it and a few other guys.
Right.
Named it after F Troop. Yeah, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. That and The Winners, the VFL show, the football show. On Sunday night,
Winners, yeah.
sit in front of the TV,
Drew
watch The
Morfitt.
Winners. That was Drew Morfitt.
Morfitt,
There's the name. Yeah, that was it. That was
In the mud and
sacrilegious.
the slush and the...
Yeah.
You don't get that anymore, do you?
No, you don't, do you?
Perth Stadium and
No, that was
all that
great.
sort of
Wayne
stuff.
Harms knocking that ball into the
That's
goal
it.
square for the goal to be kicked.
Are you a Carlton fan?
Carlton fan, mate, yeah.
All right, that's the end of the show.
Oh.
Folks.
All my life, yeah, since the Winners.
Oh, my God. Yeah, when was the last time you won a premiership? Would have been 1990...
95, I think, wasn't it?
95,
95,
yeah.
I think was the
Yeah.
last one, yeah, which is living memory. It's
Yeah.
not bad. We're rebuilding at the moment. We have been for 15 years now.
For 30 years. If I got
Savage.
my maths right.
Very
Sorry,
savage,
mate.
Gary.
Sorry, mate. I'm an eagle, so... you
Oh,
know, yeah.
Most people are.
Yeah, I got to be. You wouldn't want to know which. I used to be on black and white Newcastle United in England, and so the first club I supported here were the Magpies, Collingwood.
Collingwood.
So, yeah,
Gary.
so Carlton, Collingwood.
The old fake.
Don't beat me up.
Mate, that's, that's a hard call, that one.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going to have to go now. Mate.
So, what unfulfilled ambitions do you have? Is there anything you haven't fulfilled yet?
Not a huge amount, mate. I've sort of covered most bases, I think, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And as far as my ability goes, you know, like I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. There's one thing I have to do, and that's, and we've vowed and declared it's going to happen. Dennis James, who's been one of my
America.
favourite guitar
He
players,
is,
is
isn't he?
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Dennis and I talk regularly, and he's doing some gigs over there now, which is great. And we always vowed and declared that we'd play together again before we hit the bucket. So I've got to get to Pittsburgh. He's going to line up a gig, and we're going to try to get Al Cash down from Washington. Colin, the
Is
bass
Al Cash
player,
in Washington, is he?
He's in Washington,
Wow.
yeah. And so Colin, the bass player's here in Perth still, that I play with
So
now.
you guys-
We're going to do a Current Bun reunion, and Dennis
Wow.
is going to organise a gig for it. So yeah.
It's
So
funny, I talked to Dennis on Messenger some time ago because he watches the show.
Yep.
God love him, and yeah, from all the way over there, and I think he gets a kick out of it. And I'm sure he'll get a kick out of watching this one.
He's still, like, dare I say it, probably the greatest guitar
Yeah.
player I've played with on a night when Dennis is firing. He's unbeatable.
He was one of my inspirations, John
Yep.
Meyer, Dave Hole, but Dennis James definitely.
Yeah.
Used
he
to
was-
go and sneak in when I was 15 and watch all you guys, and you know,
I know you
I want
did
to be
that.
like them. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was this little guy like, binding everyone's ankles. Get out, you know. Who is this guy? Anyway, do you collect anything?
Not really now. Music I did for a long time.
Yep.
I probably haven't bought as much music in the last 10, 15 years as I used to. And I probably had access to so much music in the days of the record companies and the record shops and stuff like that. So I just continued sort of, it was all things I liked. It wasn't just for the sake of getting them. But I've still got things like red vinyl, Sgt. Pepper's albums and stuff like that stashed away amongst the vinyl collection. So yeah, that's probably the one thing, but it's sort of ceased in the last few years. I really haven't bothered to get.
You have to really
couldn't
go
get
and
vinyl
look
for a
to
long
find
time.
them now.
Yeah,
as
well, there's a
yeah.
few good places, Record Finder and Fremantle, places like that now are stocking a lot of vinyl again. So it's the resurgence is certainly there. I don't know how.
Was
how
that
big it'll
Record
be.
Finder?
The Record Finder, yeah,
Yep.
a couple of shops. He's got 2 shops in High Street, Fremantle. And
Yeah.
good range of vinyl in
Oh,
there.
cool.
Yeah, it's nice
Got
to
a
see.
Free plug on the show.
Free plug for him.
So, what would you put on your gravestone, Terry?
Well, I was listening to Dick, and I thought that was pretty prophetic, Dick. Like really, it comes down to your family, and I reckon I probably won't get a gravestone, mate. I reckon I'll be on the vase above the mantelpiece in that vase. They'll keep me there, and so I probably won't be buried anywhere. So they probably won't have any inscription on it at all. You know? No,
nice.
there's probably nothing really
Yeah.
stands out that I'd like to have on there.
Yeah. Can you tell us something about yourself that nobody knows?
Gee,
You don't have to.
I don't, do I? No.
No.
You
You want to ask me a question?
No.
No.
How about yourself, Gary? Is there anything, hidden secrets you don't know about?
Oh, look, I'm not talking about cross-dressing or anything like that. Not on this show.
No, you can't, mate. You can't do that.
Now, look, wonderful to talk to you.
Yeah.
I've got to ask the viewers to keep giving us a thumbs up and subscribing, because you know, we are getting lots. We got a list of so many people we want to interview.
It's a wonderful program.
Yeah, you being one of them.
Program, Gary.
And I'm so happy that you can come in and share these stories with us. And I know you. As soon as we finish this, you're going to tell me the real stories.
Yeah, there's a few more of them.
But look,
No,
thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming in. And,
pleasure, Gary.
Wonderful to see you again.
Been great. I love the show, and yeah, I hope it goes on forever. It's fantastic. There's a lot of people to come.
Thank you very much. Look, folks, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us.